So, welcome to this session called Water and Sewer Design Best Practice. I am going to take you through the process of designing water and sewer trenches, and we are briefly going to talk about the different parts of the process and in what order things should be done. My name is Jenny Johansson. I work at Trimble, and I've been in the company for about 19 years, working with mainly the products Quadri and Novapoint. Okay, if you have any questions during this session, please use the Q&A. With the chat function, you're able to communicate with other attendees if maybe you get some tips or something that you want to share. So to the agenda. First of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about the water and sewer task and the calculation basis. Then I'm going to move on to the configuration and going to tell you a little bit about how to use this. And as the third point, we will move on to water and sewer design. And here I am going to create some new trenches. And while doing that, I am also going to show you some functions that you might not know about and give some tips. And once again, when we end up, I will talk about the calculation basis once again. So let's go directly into the water and sewer task. And if we look into this Quadri model, we have a water and sewer task created already. And going over here, we can see the selection, the calculation basis for the alignment. And here we have made a selection consisting of a designed road and the ground surface. And this is the only selection I need to do in this certain project, since I don't have any soil layers or something like that. I do not need to go down to the feature level because since the design tasks are of a higher priority than the ground surface, it will always be prioritized and used when designing trench underneath the road. Then if we go to the calculation basis for the ditch for the trench, I will make the same selection, but also go down one level to the feature level. And here we are going to select certain features from the road model. We will select subgrade surface and lowest construction work surface. And together with this, I also select unspecified land cover area, since I need to select all features that are going to be used. We close here and we notice that we have two buttons here, apply to alignments and apply to trenches. This button needs to be used if we have trenches since before and if we want to make changes of the calculation basis and want these changes to be applied to the already existing trenches. For example, if making a change here for the calculation basis by choosing all the top road surfaces, and along with them I also choose the unspecified land cover area. Then we have made changes for the calculation basis for the alignment. If pressing apply to alignments, these changes will be applied to the trench that is already existing. From here, if we go on, we see a slide with 3 pictures, and these pictures are just to show you how it would look like if we are having a road as calculation basis and use both subgrade surface and lowest construction work surface as features in the calculation basis for the ditch. In the picture to the left, we will see a road in cut and how the ditch will behave and be created in this case. And the other 2 pictures are showing when the road is on fill, a lower fill and a higher fill. From here, we will move on to water sewer configuration, because when we have set the calculation basis, we can start by creating the typical cross-sections that we need to create and that are going to be used when we are designing our trenches. My tip to you is that you always predefine these typical cross-sections as good as possible before starting to the design. This will make your design so much easier, and you have a lot of things to win on doing it like this. You can always go back to the configuration and create new typical cross-sections during the design, but remember to do as much as you possibly can in advance. And also remember when defining these typical cross-sections that you define not only pipes, but also connections and the geometry under the ditch. And you can think about the configuration as 3 libraries, consisting of 3 libraries. One that describes typical cross-sections or ditches, one for pipes, and one for connections. So let's take a look. We start configuration by using this button over here. Pressing it, the configuration window will pop up. And here we see the 3 libraries I talked about. Going to the ditches library, we will see a drop-down list consisting of standard default cross-sections. We can copy one of them by using copy ditch button. And then we will go down here to give the new typical cross-section a proper name. I'm using the dimensions of the pipes to the naming. When I have given this typical cross-section a name, I need to look into what pipes that are going to be inside this typical cross-section. And we see that pipe number 1, stormwater, is the reference pipe. This is the pipe that follows the alignment. Now I would like to change the reference pipe. I want to use the sewage as reference pipe. Then I can move up the sewage using these pipes, these arrows, and we will see the reference pipe here, and it's situated right onto the foundation. Then we can change what material that each pipe will consist of and what dimension to be used. We can also describe how they are placed in the typical cross-section. For stormwater, we need to change dimension to 300, or actually 315. And since I changed dimension, I will also change the naming here. If we look further to the right for this row, we will see possibility to describe the placement using one pipe, in this case pipe number 1, as a horizontal reference, and then we will describe the distance to be used for the horizontal distance. We do the same for the vertical distance, using one selected pipe and then giving a vertical distance between these 2 pipes. When the pipes are described, we also need to describe what connections to be used. And we do this by activating the table view for connections. And here we can describe connections to be used in start and end point, and in all the points in between. Here we can see that each pipe has the possibility to have their own connection, and we give information such as material, dimension, and so on, even for the connections. And for manholes, we describe both bottom parts and upper parts. If we look into the stormwater here, we see that we have a manhole that are going to be used with a dimension of 1000. If we, for example, would like to put in another dimension here, let's say 400 millimeters, then we can go to the library and add this dimension. So we go to connection library, search for the manhole for stormwater. And when we look at that, we make sure that it is usable and possible to choose it in concrete. And then we can go to the material concrete and add the dimension by pressing this plus sign and then type in the new dimension. From here, I go back to the ditches view. And the next thing I will do is to activate the table view for the geometry of the ditch. And here we have the possibility to add values describing how the geometry shall look. When we are satisfied, just press save and then leave the configuration for now. When we have made these typical cross sections, we can go on starting to design trenches. And we will do this in water sewer design. And what I am going to show you first is how to create some new trenches, how to move connections, trim pipes to manhole, change set values for pipes and manholes, how we can interpolate between nodes, and how we can add a pipe to a trench. Here we are in design mode, and as we can see, we have a trench designed already over here. But we are going to create a new trench. And we do that by using the function, the menu trench and the function new. This function makes it possible for me to just point out start point and then continue pointing out vertices where I want to insert a node and connections described in the typical cross section. When I'm finished, I press enter and I get the possibility to choose cross-section to be used. And now we can see we have these 3 pipes designed already, following the alignment. From here we also can open up a vertical window. It's a temporary file showing us the longitudinal profile for the water and sewer design. And as we see here, we will follow the ground surface for the first section, but when we come to node number 12, we will go in underneath the road. And as we can see, we will follow the top surface of the road. And after that, we are leaving the road, and once again, we will follow the ground surface. Now let's see the first node that we have made here. And as we can see, we have we have 3 connections over here, and they are all in conflict with one another. Now I need to move connections. And first, before moving the manhole that we have over here, I will insert a vertex on the pipe to make it possible to bend there. So insert a horizontal vertex, and after that, I can just right-click the manhole and move it to the desired position. And the vertex will function as a breakpoint for this pipe. I also move the connection for the water pipe, like this. And next thing I will show you is how to clean up a bit in the manhole. And that I can do by right-clicking a manhole and selecting trim pipes to edge. From here, we will go over to the vertical drawing once again, and we're going to look a little bit closer into the set values for the designed trench. And as we can see here in node 13, we have manholes, they are yellowed, and you can always change a set value for a manhole just by right-clicking it and giving a new set value, but you can also click with left button on the mouse and then grab the grip that shows. And when you drag this manhole down, the pipes will follow. To change the pipe set value, just right-click the pipe and type in a new desired value for the pipe. And as we see here now, we have 2 centimeters difference between incoming and outgoing pipe. And now I am going to change set values here for this manhole as well. Incoming pipe will be given a set value of 32.10 and outgoing will be given a value 32.8. And also here we have 2 centimeters of difference between them. Now let's look closer to node 12 and node 15. They are both in positions that we want to keep, but between them we want same slope for all the pipes the whole way. Then we can use the function to interpolate heights by right-clicking the start node and selecting interpolate heights for all pipes. After that, I select the end node, in this case, number 15, and when finished, I will get the same slope the whole way. When doing this, we can see that the difference between pipes of 2 centimeters, it will remain, but the manhole bottom, they will be set following the trench bottom and the interpolation. Okay, now we get some new directions here. We need to add a 4th pipe into this trench. And there are actually 2 ways of doing this. First, I will show you how to do it just using the design and the graphics. The pipes, the information about the pipes are to be found here on the trench section. It is also here we can change material or type of pipe or something like that. To add an extra pipe, I need to right-click a pipe in the plan view and insert the pipe for the trace section. The pipe will be inserted at the point where I point with my cursor. And as we can see, we get a connection in each end of the pipe. And if I right-click one of the nodes, I can see in the dialog that we have 4 connections connected to this node. So even if it looks like the pipe is far away, it's connected to the node. It's easy to move the connections just by right-clicking them and move them to new positions. And if there is a situation where we don't want a new connection for this pipe, for the water pipe, maybe I would like to connect to the already existing one, then I need to detach the pipe from the current connection. And after we have done that, we notice that this connection now do not have any connected pipes. And we can see that in the dialog view here. Then we can right-click the other connection and attach the pipe to that one instead. And we will see that the pipe will be attached to the already existing connection. And from here, I can see that there are 3 pipes connected. And now it's okay to remove this connection that are not longer used. If we do add pipe in this way, we need to do it for one trench section at a time. Then to the other way of doing this, which I mean is the more proper way to do it. Then we need to start the configuration because we will use that to create a new cross section. So in the view of the configuration, we will create a new typical cross section that consists even this 4th pipe. And we will describe the placement, material, and so on, just like for the other pipes. Then we can go to the trench, and now it is possible to change typical cross-section for the whole trench at one time, just by pressing this button and choose the new typical cross-section. And what we can see now is that we have 4 pipes, And if I move in, if I move to the vertical drawing, we can also see that there are double up of connections, even though they are in the same set, in the same elevation. What we need to know when choosing a new cross-section for a whole trench is that all set values for manholes and pipes are resetted to default heights. If we want to avoid that, we need to go back here and select cross-section for one trench section at a time. So then I can mark trench section 11 to 12 and select cross-section for this trench section. And then I have to repeat this for the other trench sections as well. And in this way, I can keep the heights of the manholes, the designed heights. We shall look a little bit more into water sewer design by continue creating trenches, and we're going to see how we can move connections, how we can add a node, and how we can interpolate between nodes and so on. So from here, we start by designing this new trench like this. This is actually what we were just were doing. So here is the new one. I'm so sorry. Now we are back in the trench design dialog. Here we are going to create 2 new trenches. To be able to do that, we need to insert a node on this existing trench, and we do that by right-clicking and then inserting a node. When inserting a node, I just point out the placement for the node, and there will be inserted connections for each pipe. From here, we want to create two new trenches, one from the north going to this node and one that starts here and going south. So first we will create the northern trench, and I do this by using same function as before, going to trench and new, and then just by pointing out start vertex, continuing down. And when I want to join this existing node, I need to snap center node. So I use the snap tool by finding center node, and I snap the trench to that one. And this is because I want to use the connections that are already there. If not snapping, I will end up with 6 connections instead of 3. From here, it is possible to move connections and put them in better places where the pipes actually meet one another. And I do that by right-clicking the connection and then moving it to the new desired place. When I do this, the pipes are going to follow. So as we can see, by clicking out a new position here, the pipes will follow. To get them back into right place, I can right-click the manhole and then choose to snap pipes to center. And they will pop back to the original place. In the same way, I am now going to move the connection for the water. Select move, and after moving it, we will point out a new place. And then we have to right-click it and snap the pipes to center of the manhole. Now I would like to change what type of connection to be used. I can do that by right-clicking and then going to the dialog for the connection and properties tab. And there it is possible to change either type or material or something else. From here, we are going to fix this manhole as well. Choose snap pipes to center. And another tool that I want to show you is if you go to modify and trim all pipes to manhole. Then we trim all pipes at the trenches in the same time. So that's the difference between when we right-clicked a manhole and choose to trim only the pipes in that manhole. Now we will create another trench starting from this node, and then we need to right-click the node and go down and choose New Trench. And from here we can point out the vertices and then select our cross-section that are going to be used. And as we can see now, if we zoom in a bit and if we right-click one of the manholes, we can see that there are 4 pipes attached to this connection. So now we know that everything sticks together. And from here, we can continue to design, of course, but I want to save and leave the design tool. And next step will then be to calculate the cross sections and build the solids in the 3D model. And when this calculation is done, I can just close it and go back to the quadri window to look into the water and sewer task. And there I can see that the trenches are built. And we have them crossing like this, using only 2 manholes and a connection for the water in this position. And from here then, let's go back talking about the calculation basis. As we can see, we have a situation with 2 trenches crossing one another. Now I would like to use trench number 1 here as a calculation basis into trench 3 and 4 to get rid of the double quantities in the middle. Then I need to change calculation basis first for trench 3, and we will select on task level the trench design for trench number 1. And then since we have a selection on the feature level, we go down there and select the outer walls for the trench and the bottom of the trench by selecting utility trench bottom and utility trench edge surface. From here, we finish up, and then we make the same selection for the other trench. Going down to feature level and selecting the walls and the bottom of the trench. And here is to refine our selection actually. So what we need to do now is to recalculate the both trenches. And now I mark 1 trench at a time to be able to change the settings for the calculation. Then I can go to this section tab and I can set a tighter interval for the crossing situation, so we get even narrower and more exact appearance there. And we do that for both trench 3 and trench 4. And since we start, I only do this tighter interval for the 3 first meters of the trench. And then we can build both trenches once again. And now, when leaving this CAD environment, going back to Quadri, we can see that the crossing situation looks a bit different. And we will not have double up of quantities for cut and fill here. So this was a short and briefly presentation about how to use water and sewer and some tips along the way.